Good day, spiritual artist. This is CJ Miller, your host. I got up this morning and I realized that I need this reading as much as you might need to doodle to the reading. Every day when we get up, we have to align ourselves with spirit. I call it stepping into spirit. And today I got up and I was a little fearful about the world events and what I'm hearing on the media. Of course, the media is driven to attract our attention, and it uses oftentimes fear-based things to get it. And so it can bring up fear. And as you know, fear is not the place of spirit. Fear is not the place where I want you and me to practice being when we call it being in the presence. So this chapter is going to help us a lot with that, explaining what it means to step into spirit and how to always align yourself, your energy, your consciousness with that place of love. So here we go. Quote, flow with whatever may happen and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing. This is the ultimate. Chang Zhu, end quote. I hope I said his name correctly. This is chapter 17, The Rule of Medium. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's best-selling book, Flow, details what he calls the psychology of optimal experience. It's that state of peak performance where, quote, people become so involved in what they're doing that the activity becomes spontaneous, almost automatic. They stop being aware of themselves as separate from the actions they are performing. End quote. According to this writer, flow actively projects the participant into a heightened experience. He further defines flow by diagramming what he considers two opposing forces, challenge and skill. The state of flow is a central channel. If we balance our challenge level with our skill level, we maintain an ultimate sense of flow. His diagram demonstrates this perfect midpoint, noting that we become anxious if we push too far beyond our skill level. On the other hand, if we don't challenge ourselves sufficiently with new projects, we become bored. Flow occurs in the space at the midpoint between these two extremes. One way of examining this practice is by exploring the world of sports. It's common knowledge that many athletes recognize the importance of their mental state during competition. Successful athletes are the ones that can tap into this state upon demand. They take the proper amount of time before an event to monitor their thoughts and breath to center themselves before competing. Unfortunately, many athletes believe in the quote, no pain, no gain theory. This theory reinforces the belief that if we strive as hard as possible to the point of extreme physical pain, only then will we gain success. When athletes follow the no pain, no gain school of thought, they meet with disappointment because pushing too hard meets with resistance. However, a select few athletes learn the importance of gently balancing themselves before they compete, and I believe that they are practicing what I call the rule of medium. The rule of medium is precisely the opposite of trying to force results. It's about monitoring your inner state and learning the importance of being medium. Push too hard, and it will crush your creative spirit. Don't push it all, and you'll lack focus and creative expansion. Like a successful athlete, a spiritual artist knows that there is an ideal midpoint maintained within the creative process, and they practice the rule of medium. They approach their task with joy and passion in the act itself. It's the state of pleasure achieved at that precise place between pushing too hard and trying not at all. Spiritual artists attempt to balance challenge and skill and learn to feel their way into that medium point. It's that perfect space between anxious and bored. While practicing staying in conscious presence, I believe that we receive guidance and creative ideas from this greater intelligence and are genuinely co-creating. I'm going to read that again. While practicing staying in conscious presence, I believe that we receive guidance and creative ideas from this greater intelligence, this greater power, and are genuinely co creating. When we practice the rule of medium, we understand that the longer we can maintain that state, the more creative opportunities occur without rushing to completion or forcing a solution. It's in that place that this creative possibility occurs. As spiritual artists, we do this by slowing down, staying present, and enjoying the process. After all, the creative process is about connection and not completion. After several years of standing before the easel, I noticed that I would often force a painting to completion. I began recognizing that my paintings became lifeless when I focused on the outcome and not the process. I'm going to say that again. I began recognizing that my paintings became lifeless when I focused on the outcome rather than the process. There's nothing more intimidating to a new artist than a blank canvas. It seems as though the pressure of the world weighs upon our shoulders. Often negative thoughts rush into our heads. Are we good enough? Will our final work be of value? Or if you're painting in a room with others, am I as good as everyone else? But it's precisely by learning how to stand in front of a blank canvas that we practice the rule of medium. We find ourselves acting, listening, and reacting so quickly that there's no time for thinking. The joy is derived from the action and not the actual completion. It's the brush's act on the canvas, the merging of color and form, the state of receptivity when the spiritual artist connects to a greater power and unique creativity flows. It's a melding of Harold Rosenberg's emotional action painting and Dr. Petra Welday's co-creating with spirit. We are creator, created, and creative. In The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, he explains, how is always more important than what. See if you can give much more attention to the doing than to the result that you want to achieve through it. Give your fullest attention to whatever the moment presents. This practice requires that you completely accept what is, because you cannot give your full attention to something and at the same time resist it. End quote. Only when you truly relax, enjoy, and let go of judgment will you be in the state of now, the state ideally receptive to the impulse of creative intelligence. The rule of medium doesn't focus on future worries and doesn't obsess with past errors. As Toll defines, it's the state of acting in the now. You have to be purely happy and not getting anywhere before you get somewhere with your painting. Isn't that an irony? You have to be purely happy, not getting anywhere before you get somewhere with your painting. This dichotomy means that you have to be in a pure state of play without any intention of arriving at a composition before you truly discover the magic of painting. It seems like a contradiction, but only when you truly decide to be blissful, blending paints around on the canvas, can you be in the proper mental state for discovery. According to Csikszentmihalyi, when we practice flow, we are demonstrating an autotelic personality. Autotelic personality. What exactly is an autotelic nature? It's focusing on the process of the activity for the sake of doing. While most of us focus on the optimal experience being one that produces a result, the autolect personality pays attention to the activity for its own sake. Like the autotelic personality, a spiritual artist maintains the rule of medium as long as possible for the sake of the activity itself. Place yourself in the center of your being by practicing the rule of medium. When we paint as a spiritual artist, demonstrating his definition of flow, we are genuinely co-creating with a greater power. Well, this chapter had a lot of words there that are a little hard for me to read this early in the morning, as you can see. But what I really love about this is it's kind of what I needed to hear today. So when we get up and we're anxious, like I was, or stressful, that's because we're either in the past, we're considering and thinking about something that happened in the past, or we're worried about the future. More than likely, it's worried about the future. And that's when we aren't present. We certainly aren't practicing the rule of medium, because the rule of medium is about being right where you are, fully present. So I ask you this morning to consider this next time you're feeling anxious or stressed out. Slow down and just focus on the present. What I did this morning is I sat quietly on the couch, I closed my eyes, and I just listened to the sounds of the room. I listened to the sounds of the room and I focused on being totally present, totally in that state of now. And it calmed me. I'm not saying it's going to take away all these problems, but those problems will arrive when they arrive, if they arrive. And you will deal with them only when you are present, only in the present moment. And so I heard the birds outside the window. There's a new bird hanging around my feeder and has a unique sound. And I listened to my dog snoring at my feet. And I calmed myself and recognized that life is good right now in this moment, in the present moment. And that's where I focus on. And the same thing as I go before the painting easel this morning, and I'm working on this large painting, I just focus on what is the next step and feel for it. I feel for the next impulse. And I don't try to jump to the end of the painting. Oh, this is what it's going to look like, or see it when it's finished. I just am present with what it is right now. And where am I drawn? Where am I drawn to make the next stroke? So this is a great activity, the rule of medium, and I want you to consider that as you go about the day. I'm so thankful that you're joining me on this doodle journey. There has been a good group of you committed to this, and I'm really impressed. And I look to see you tomorrow on the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Make sure you follow this channel on YouTube and you subscribe or follow to my podcast so you get an update every morning when a new chapter is released. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.